8 concrete stock tips, that's what I will give you in this week's trading tips with Jim, which also happens to be for week 8. And you will like, you will subscribe, and you will comment, because that will help the podcast to grow. Last week was a good week for Nasdaq. Nasdaq up 2.58%. Dow Jones not so much, but still up 0.55% for Dow Jones. And you may wonder, so where was I last week since there were no podcast? Well, I had to go for a travel. Doing so, I had no really good opportunity of making the podcast. But I had a super fantastic week, not only in the markets, but also personally, which I hope you had as well. One of the things that's really pleased me was gold. Gold pushing way above $2,900, was even close, I think, to 2,970 something. Gold doing what it was supposed to do all the time. And if you remember, I went in when gold was $1,600. And I keep getting this question, I get it even more now, should I invest into gold? My personal opinion is this: as you remember, I had a target for 3,000 for gold. Then I increased it to 3,500, but as Trump won the presidency of United States, I'm not sure we will head there for sure as fast as I thought. Argument for this is if we get the geopolitical tension down, the reason for holding all the gold will be less. So my take on this is that I personally actually will reduce. I will take out some of the profits I have made in gold. I will start slowly as we are at very good levels. Doesn't mean that gold will not continue, because we're still not there where things are fully clear yet about the future, but some signs are starting to show. And if these grow stronger, a lot of things will happen. And in this scenario, I do not see gold being the best place to be. There will be other places which can yield more. But overall conclusion for gold, it's one of the better places to be, because I think it's limited downside in the short term. In the longer term, gold may fall back to $2,300, $2,400 in my opinion, and in the very long term it will continue upwards. Enough about gold. I boldly promised you in the beginning of the podcast I will give you 8 stock tips this week from my new build systems. As you know, I do build systems. That's my main occupation, building systems for stock trading and stock analysis, stock picking, everything related to stocks. That is where my heart is, and this podcast is just a prolonged arm of these efforts. So I've come up with more tools, and we will put these to the test, because from the 8 stock tips I will give you, these have been flashed as short-term buy signals. So we will see, will it be correct or not? I will tell you which stocks it is. Next week we will follow up and see if they actually were good choices or not. And that being said, time to put in the disclaimer. Capital at risk, of course, and anything and everything you do is by your choice only. I just tell you what I think and nothing more. And what I think is that the general situation in general for the markets is better than it has been in some while. If we look at the buy and the sell signals, we can say that 30% of all stocks across the world are giving buy signal. This is very balanced. Going to Nasdaq, only 14% is giving buy signals. We somewhat like that because it's in the very lower end, and when things gets too low, it turns upwards. And I know many of you have questions about this logic, but it is greed and fear in practice. When there is too much buy signals, the greed becomes too high. The next thing that will happen is fear. When the fear is too much, the next thing that will happen is greed. And Nasdaq being at 40% just means that we are at the very lower end with a high potential for things to pick up. And we can argue this in many, many fundamental ways if we like and want why it is 14, why it should increase, or even why it should go down. But just purely looking at signals, 14% is very low. Going to New York Stock Exchange is at 27%. And by the way, when it's a very low number or very high number, it also correlates with volatility, meaning that when you have a low number like 14% for Nasdaq, you can expect a lot of volatility among the stocks, a lot of movements up and down, and usually very rapid. New York Stock Exchange at 27% is very, very stable and just okay place to be. It's not an obvious buy, it's not an obvious sell. Going to London 33%, while Frankfurt has fallen a little bit down to 44%. We know that Germany in general is struggling, a struggling economy, and they have to figure out a lot of things. Election coming up in Germany next week will be a test about democracy as well. Will they accept the final outcome of the election or not? We see signs across Europe that elections are being challenged if we do not like the outcome. So I'm not sure I will be too heavily invested in German stocks, as there probably will be quite much movement this week and next week. And of course, if you're able to pick the right one, well, why not? But in general, it's not the most optical market right now. Going to Tokyo, 36% of the stocks are giving buy signals in Japan. Been very, very steady on the better end. I mean, also Japan is finally getting out of decades of slow growth. Japan is a very, very interesting market in years to come. I'm very, very tempted to do a few things in Japan myself. Going to China, it's 35%. China is slowly turning upwards, and some of the reason for this is all this trade tariff talk, war in Ukraine. It splitted the world into BRICS. It splitted the West and the East very dramatically, and now we actually see signs that this might bridge back. Some of this is related to the peace talks of Ukraine, but for the first time, of course, we hear the word peace, which is so nice to finally hear the word peace, not only about war and warmongering. And in the same sentence was also said that Russia, United States, and China will come together to look at de-nuclearizing, trying to reduce the amount of weapons that can totally destroy the world. And in this, there is a slight imply that relationships may grow better again. And if these things grow better, well, then trade will grow better. And that may lead to a lot of Chinese stocks that's been held down, especially on Nasdaq, with very strong fundamentals to do a good push-up. Will NIO be one of them? I do not know for sure, but NIO went a little bit up, and I think there is more. By the way, one of the stocks I will mention of the 8 stock tips coming up very, very shortly will be Chinese, by the way. We will see. We'll finalize that argument this week. Will be very interesting in many, many bigger trend-lined ways. Economically, there is not much happening. There will be job numbers on Thursday and will be some economic numbers on Friday. There will be a few quarter results. Among them will Oxy and Devon come tomorrow. Market, as I said, will be closed today for Presidential Day. There will be Fed meeting on Wednesday where they will say a little bit about what their thought process was in January and in January decision. Many will follow, but it's very hard to believe that whatever they say will have a huge outcome for the stock market. Etsy will also have quarter results on Wednesday. Thursday there will be the jobless number. Then we have Alibaba, Walmart, Rivian, and Dropbox will be some of the companies coming with quarter results. None of these companies are big enough to really move the market. So what we are looking at in general is a less volatile market with a high potential for an upside, meaning that it's a high chance that the market will end greener by the end of the week, that we will end higher than in the beginning of the week. And if it drops down, so much support below that it's very, very hard to see that it will drop very, very far. The things that can offset this, and we have to keep this in our book as well. Right now, there is peace talks, and a lot of people are not happy about these things. They feel left out. Europe feels left out in the discussions. A lot of people who have been in the spotlight can very easily get obsolete, and they will fight with everything they have to remain in the spotlight with their scary arguments, with their warmongering, with everything they have. They will try their very, very best, and it's very, very hard to say, as Europe in general have been left-leaning over many years. They can do something very, very odd in the last minute. We will just have to wait and see. I will not be surprised if something very, very odd happens that can flip all peace talks. And if that happens, we are back into the same shitty situation, and markets can take a very, very huge fall, and gold will continue upwards. Hopefully none of this will happen. Hopefully there will be some common sense and some real talks and discussion, and we can make money in the market. By the way, you can make a lot of money in negative markets. Usually I make more money in negative markets than in good markets, because it's a little easier to spot the obvious things when greed and fear just go banana, especially fear. Now, we are 11 minutes into the podcast. Less than 1-2 minutes, you will have the 8 tips. Before that, oil, $71. Oil slowly creeping downwards, and this, my friends, are very good for world economy. For those following me all these years, you know when oil was pushing up, I told you with these things come just inflation. There are tons and tons of issues follows with increase in oil price. Why I put money into oil stocks, by the way, and said that you should do the same thing, because it was obvious. Now energy is starting to get cheaper, and if there will be a peace deal, energy will flow from Russia, Russia being the biggest energy producer in Europe. If energy starts to flow cheap back to Europe, prices and everything will start to drop. Some of them may drop very, very hard, very fast. The inflation threat will be less and less. Everything will depend on energy. And energy is very much war related, how Middle East is handling. So if anything breaks out in the Middle East, of course you can expect oil to push upwards. But I think most are tired. Energy going down, good thing. And as I argue, I sold out most of my oil positions. What I'm in now is high yield paying, high dividend paying oil freight stocks, oil and gas freight stocks. Most of them Norwegian, they pay so high dividend that even with the risk of a slight fall in the stock price, the dividends are just very, very good. Gold, as I mentioned, was creeping up, currently sitting 2,911, and the 10-year treasury yield, when it go up, market goes down. 10-year treasury yield tells a lot about what the expert thinks about the future, actually crawling down last week, ending at 447, still very, very high. But we can see that the professionals, they think it's a fair chance that things will stabilize. In this scenario, when things stabilize, trading will change, the stocks that will go up will change. We had the AI, of course, they will continue in some of them, but many of the stocks that have been beaten down in all this turmoil will finally have a upturn. And my friends, here are the 8 stock tips for the week, before I will tell you a little bit about the $1,000 challenge. And before giving you the exact names, these have been picked based by algorithms I've developed and continue to develop for stock picking to make it easier. It's far from finished, so consider this the first beta release, and you are very, very lucky because you get to hear the stocks. And I will be very, very excited myself to look what will happen 1 week from now. Will they actually do what the signal thinks they do? They may do very opposite. What I hope for is not at least 60% of these stocks. Now let's say that out of these 8, I would really hope that 5 or more go up during the week, because these are short-term trades. Nevertheless, if big things happen, doesn't matter what the system says. Now, if big things happen, we already know that UK been very aggressive, and France probably wants to feel a little important, and they can do so many things that just crash the stock market very, very easily. And then it doesn't matter what the stock signal says. But anyway, Celestica Inc., CLS, shows in my systems a buy signal. Still, stock is currently trading at $132, and looking at the chart I can see there is resistance around $143, so it indicates that the potential upside of, let's say, about 10%. Next stock is a Nasdaq stock, PTC Inc., currently $171, has very little resistance upwards to 185. And you may sit wondering, so what actually is this algorithms? What are they doing? Well, they are looking at all sort of things. It is many years ago, go to 2004 to 2006, I developed the score algorithms that I used at Stock Invest. And ever since I have improved them a little bit, but I wanted to build much better systems which also can detect the very short, the very long things. So I've done that, and working with that to give also intraday signals which you can follow minute by minute and end of day. And these signals which you hear now, they are based more or less, say, over the next few days, out this week only before trading days. So these are a little bit for the 4 next trading days. Then follows Tevogen Bio, currently sitting at $1.58. I'm not sure the chart was exactly what I thought would be very good, but anyway, my system says we will follow it up. It says that 158 might be a very good buy level. Ticker TVGN. Then there is Go Health, GOCO, Go Health, currently sitting at $19. Also this signals further upturn. Some of these stocks will go a lot, some of them maybe not as much. You just have to check this chart yourself. Then there is the Chinese stocks, Weibo. VB, sitting at 1110, indicates that it will continue upwards this week. Then there is ATA Inc., ATAI, currently sitting at 230, indicates that it should push upwards. Then there is Faraday, and this is really risky trade, a penny shit at $1.60, indicate that it should go maybe as far as $2 even more. That would be some 20%. FFEA, stock that moves a lot up and down, and sometimes it pop into the Reddit and the small traders, and they push these stocks. But anyway, I'm just telling you, my systems found that Faraday is giving buy signals for the next day to go. The last was not on the list, but I bring it in. Actually, it was on the list, but very, very far down. It was not on the top. But Tesla also shows very, very good technical situations. So these are the 8 stocks that given shows the high chance of doing good this week, and we will follow next week. This is very, very transparent podcast. I will tell you exactly what and if something goes wrong. Don't worry about that. And I do not say that you should buy these stocks. I just say they are giving buy signals. Tickers are CLS, Celestica, PTC Inc., TVGN, Tevogen Bio, GOCO, which is Go Health, Weibo, VBB, Weibo, ATA, which is ATA Inc., FFEA, which is Faraday, and Tesla. Tesla we all know, so TSLA. for Tesla. 8 stock tips there, you have them for free. And we will follow up next week to see how did this go. And I know some of you will even think, will I invest into some of these stocks from this list of 8? I will pick 2 stocks, which I personally will invest a little into. I usually do that when I build systems. I follow up with actual money because that's the real telltale of things. Very exciting, huh? 1 week we will know the answer. Was there anything during the week? By the way, I will continue to improve systems because I see when looking at the result, I see some stocks which do not fit the list. A lot of this has to do with liquidity. Anyway, 20 minutes into the podcast, I am about to round up. But before doing that, remember, subscribe, like, and comment. And we will end the podcast as usually with $1,000 challenge, where I try to grow $1,000 as fast as I can. I started with $1,000. Currently, it is 2,539. Yes, it doubled, but remember we were almost at 4,000. Doing a few mistakes the last few trades, been a few mistakes holding us back. And I am far, far beyond what I wanted. Sitting in NEO went up a little bit last week, ending at 444, and looking at the NEO chart, I like what I see, and I will stay stubborn in NEO for a little while more. Personally, I see more stocks coming up now in general, which I like. It's been at some turbulent period, but I start to see more stocks that I like. And you may ask the obvious question, so why don't you go into these big stocks, some of them doing very good? Well, I told you from the very beginning, I will play the high risk game to do fast return if I can. With that then comes the high chance of things going fast the other way as well. And of course I could go into a stock yielding 5% over 3-4 weeks, but I'm in it hopefully to win it and try to push this as hard as I can. Currently, not with big success, but we are at $2,539.60. That's exactly what my account says. I will stay in NEO. Maybe I will be out. I will post on YouTube if I go out, but I will stay in NEO, and hopefully I can report much better results. 510 is what I bought NEO for, $5.10, and we've been down to 410 or 47 or whatever it was. It's been a hard journey. Most of this has been in the turbulence, not so much about how NEO is doing fundamentally. Anyway, markets decide what is the right price or not. I hope you enjoyed these 23 minutes. I hope that you subscribe, like, and comment. And I hope you will be back next week. And more than anything, I hope that your portfolio will be much greener by the end of the week than in the beginning. Until next time, just have a super week. Bye.
Welcome to StockInvest.us Stock Analysis. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.us. By using the information you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.